Hello, everyone. So, in our world today, a world that's more connected than ever, there's this constant tug of war going on, and it affects every single one of us. It's this deep tension between our personal freedom and our collective security. And, this isn't just some abstract political debate. It actually shapes our laws, the tech we use every day, and even how we think about privacy.
So let me just ask you this. Are you being watched right now? I mean, it sounds like a simple question, but the answer is anything but. Just think about your day so far. That CCTV camera you walked past on the street corner, the website that just collected your data, the phone in your pocket that's tracking your location. This isn't science fiction, right? This is the reality of the 21st century, and it really forces us to confront some very, very difficult questions.
This feeling of being constantly observable, it actually has a name. It's called the modern panopticon. It's a really powerful concept, and we're going to unpack it as we take a closer look at the systems of surveillance that exist today and the pretty profound impact they have on our society.
Now, of course, this entire discussion is absolutely central to your Anglais Monde Contemporain program. It fits perfectly into Theme 1, Faire Société, how we build society, and it's a fantastic case study for our main axis of study, libertés et sécurité. Understanding this balance is, it's fundamental to analyzing the contemporary English-speaking world. So, this is our guiding question for today, our problématique. This is the big analytical question I want you to keep in the back of your mind as we go through all of this. Our goal here is to build a really nuanced answer, one that will be perfect for your exam.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to look at the case for security. Why do governments say these powers are so essential? Then we'll flip the coin and examine the price of that security. What it costs our liberty. And finally, and this is super important, we'll work on how to structure all these ideas into a powerful analysis. All right, let's start by looking at the official position. Why do governments, especially in places like the UK, argue for more surveillance powers? Well, the answer they give us lies in the challenges of our modern world.
And this quote from a UK Home Office report, it gets straight to the point. The government's argument is basically that technology is evolving at this incredible breakneck pace, and so are the threats. From their point of view, the old rules just don't cut it anymore.
And this is what comes out of that thinking. The Investigatory Powers Act of 2016. It's a huge piece of British legislation. In fact, its critics often call it the Snoopers Charter. What it did was consolidate and update the state's powers to access our digital lives, all in the name of adapting to these new technologies. Okay, now what's really interesting here are the specific challenges the government points to. The biggest one by far is end-to-end encryption, or E2EE. This is the tech that apps like WhatsApp and Signal use, and it means only the sender and the receiver can actually read the message. The government points out that with 70% of video calls now using it, law enforcement feels like it's creating a blind spot. Add to that the fact that so much data is stored in other countries and that criminals are using these tools, and there you have the core of their argument for more power.
But of course, these powers come at a cost. So let's switch gears and move to the other side of the debate. What is the price we pay for all this increased security? What's the real impact on our liberty, on our privacy, and maybe even on our democracy?
And this slide is brilliant because it shows how the debate itself is shaped. Language is never neutral, right? In France, the government made a very deliberate choice to change the official term from video surveillance to video protection. Think about it. Surveillance sounds intrusive, kind of creepy. But protection? That sounds positive, reassuring. It's a classic rhetorical strategy to make the public more okay with the technology.
The risks go way beyond just simple privacy concerns. As this table from the European Parliament shows, mass data collection can actually threaten the very foundations of democracy. It can enable political surveillance to silence dissent, and the personalization it creates can trap us in what we call echo chambers or informational bubbles. That's where you're only shown content that reinforces what you already believe, which makes real, genuine debate so much harder. This quote, this one really brings home the psychological cost. This isn't even about governments. This is just an employee talking about being watched at work. But that feeling is universal. Being under constant surveillance creates this pressure to perform, to conform. It just chips away at your sense of autonomy, that feeling of being your true self. This is what's known as the chilling effect of surveillance.
Okay. So we've got the two sides of the argument. We understand the basics, but for your exams, you need to know how to structure them effectively. So let's get practical and look at a simple but really powerful method to build a strong analytical paragraph.
We're going to use the PEE model: point, example, explain. Honestly, this simple structure is a lifesaver.
It makes sure your ideas are clear, they're backed up with evidence, and they're fully analyzed. It's a fantastic tool for both your essays and your oral exams.
First up, your point. This is your topic sentence. Just a clear, strong statement of your main idea. Something like, the language used to describe surveillance is a political tool that shapes public perception. Simple as that.
Next, your example. You have to back up your point with a specific detail from the documents we've looked at. So you could use that concrete example we saw of the French government's terminology change.
And finally, you explain. And listen, this is the crucial step. This is where you analyze how your example proves your point. You connect the evidence back to your main idea. This is where you really show off your critical thinking. You're not just listing facts.
So, as we've seen, this is definitely not a simple issue. There are really compelling arguments on both sides, and that creates this complex and, frankly, unresolved debate right at the heart of our societies.
It really all comes down to this core dilemma. On one side, governments argue they need these new powers to provide security against modern threats. But on the other, you have civil liberties groups warning that those same powers risk eroding the very freedoms that are supposed to define a democratic society.
Which brings us right back to our guiding question. How do modern societies balance security and liberty? Well, the answer is that there is no single permanent answer. It's a constant, really difficult negotiation. That balance point isn't fixed. It's always shifting in response to new technologies, political events, and changes in public opinion.
And I'll just leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've seen how data just flows across borders without a second thought. This raises a whole new question, one that connects to other parts of your program. Is privacy something that can be protected by one country alone anymore? Or has it become a fundamental global human right that's going to require international cooperation to defend? Something to think about.